Have you ever felt overwhelmed by thoughts no one else can see? You live in silence, trying to understand what's wrong with you, while the world expects you to smile as if everything is fine. Sometimes, the greatest battle we face is the one we fight against our own mind. In an invisible field, no psychologist can access without permission. But what if there was an ancient path tested by emperors that helps you win that inner war without needing anyone's approval? What if Marcus Aurelius's wisdom could heal what modern therapy can't always reach? Perhaps true emotional power isn't about understanding everything. It's about mastering the essential yourself. If any of these words resonated with you, comment, "I fight in silence too," and subscribe to the channel. Here you'll find more than advice. You'll discover the power of a timeless philosophy capable of turning pain into wisdom and chaos into clarity. Lessons 1. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. Everything you think often enough becomes part of who you are. This phrase from Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the mind isn't neutral. It absorbs and reflects what we feed it daily. If your thoughts are filled with guilt, fear, and insecurity, your soul will be painted in those shades. This isn't just about forced positivity, it's about mental vigilance. What you allow to live in your mind will shape your attitude and your destiny. Imagine someone who, after a breakup, spends years telling themselves they're not enough. They begin to act like someone unworthy, avoid connections, and sabotage happiness. Not because others reject them, but because they internalized a distorted thought. This silent pain is more common than we realize, and often what we call fate is just a poorly managed emotional story. Stoicism teaches us to guard our thoughts like a sentinel guards the city gates. Mastering the mind means recognizing its power to either heal or destroy us. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words during war, loss, and betrayal. He knew that when you lose control of your mind, you lose everything. The first step isn't to change the world outside, but to reform the world within. Once you understand this, you begin to treat your thoughts with more responsibility. Rather than letting past trauma define your identity, you learn to rewrite the narrative. The soul is like a blank canvas. Every thought is a brushstroke. It's up to you to decide whether to paint a scene of guilt or growth, chaos or clarity. Your outer life will always reflect your inner world. You might be thinking, but how can I change a mind that's always worked against me? The answer isn't fast or easy, but it begins with observing your thoughts without judgment. That simple act of awareness is already a form of self-love, because when you silence the noise and listen with clarity, you realize you can choose what to nurture. You're not bound to think what you've always thought. You can make your mind a temple, not a prison. And the next lesson from Marcus Aurelius will teach you how to turn pain into power, without depending on anyone but yourself. Lessons 2. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. How often have you tried to control everything around you just to feel at peace? Your job, people, situations, but even when everything seems in place, your mind still feels restless. This phrase from Marcus Aurelius holds a forgotten key. True strength isn't about shaping the world, it's about mastering how you interpret it. What breaks you is rarely the event itself, it's the meaning you attach to it. Think of someone who suddenly loses their job. They can drown in despair, seeing themselves as a victim, or see it as a chance to redirect their life. The event is the same, but the power to react lies within, not outside. Stoicism teaches us that as long as you try to control the uncontrollable, you remain vulnerable. But the moment you train your mind, you become unshakable amidst the storm. Mind mastery isn't a technique, it's a daily discipline. It means recognizing your impulses, resisting automatic reactions, and choosing with clarity how you respond. It's understanding that outer chaos doesn't have to trigger inner collapse. Marcus Aurelius wrote this not from comfort, but amid wars, betrayals, and loss. If he could find power in this principle, why wouldn't you? This isn't about passivity, it's about wise action. When you realize your peace no longer depends on others, something inside shifts. You stop being a hostage of circumstances and become the author of your own story. From that moment on, no insult, loss, or failure can completely destroy you. because your center is anchored in your mind, not in the world. Of course, it's not easy. Your mind has been conditioned to defend itself, to justify, to overreact. But the modern Stoic learns to pause, observe, and choose a response aligned with values, not emotions. That's not coldness. That's emotional freedom. And when you access this kind of strength, you discover something psychologists don't always teach: the power of inner serenity. The next lesson from Marcus Aurelius will show you how to silence the noise of others and listen to the only voice that truly matters: your awakened conscience. Lessons 3. The best revenge is to be unlike those who caused the harm. Marcus Aurelius. When someone hurts you, it's natural to want justice, explanations, maybe even for them to feel what you felt. But Marcus Aurelius gives us a counterintuitive truth. The most powerful revenge isn't payback, it's evolution. You don't win by becoming like the one who wounded you. The real victory is leaving the pain behind without carrying the poison. Being different is an act of greatness few have the courage to choose. Think of someone betrayed in a relationship. The wound cuts deep, and the immediate reaction might be coldness, silence, or spite. But by doing so, you mirror the same emotional pattern. Your energy revolves around that pain, turning it into an invisible prison. The Stoic, however, chooses freedom. They understand that dignity can't be touched by those who act dishonorably. Being different doesn't mean being better. It means staying clean. Those who walk the Stoic path know that character is their spiritual armor. When you respond with clarity, strategic silence, and emotional strength, you prove your peace is worth more than any argument. In doing so, you inspire, educate, and even disarm, without needing to raise your voice. It's easy to fall into the trap of wounded pride. The mind screams, "Make them regret. They'll see what they lost. I'll prove my worth." But this only ties you to your ego, and ego is fragile, reactive, and unstable. Stoic self-discipline teaches that when you stand firm in your values, neither praise nor insult can control you. Purpose becomes your compass, not approval or revenge. This lesson is an invitation to rise. By being unlike those who harmed you, you're not ignoring your pain. You're transcending it. You choose not to be shaped by the cruelty you received, but by the wisdom you've chosen to cultivate. And that choice, though rare, is deeply transformative. It breaks cycles, it heals silently, and it builds the kind of strength no enemy can destroy. Next, Marcus Aurelius will teach you how silence can be the most powerful and wise response, even to yourself. Lessons 4. Most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and tranquility. Marcus Aurelius. We live buried under non-essential words, urgent tasks that don't matter, and distractions that rob our peace. Marcus Aurelius warns us, most of what we do is noise, not essence. And if we want clarity, we must learn to cut the excess. The secret to a strong mind is simplicity, knowing what's vital and abandoning what's just emotional or social clutter. Picture someone who wakes up already overwhelmed by notifications, messages, endless to-dos. By night they're exhausted, yet feel like nothing truly meaningful was done. That's the trap of the unintentional life. When you say yes to everything, you're saying no to yourself. Without realizing it, you live a life full of movement, but void of direction. That's where anxiety is born. That's how soul fatigue begins. Stoicism offers the opposite. Focus on essence. This means asking what really matters, what holds lasting value, and what's merely draining your energy. Mastering the mind also means learning to pause, stay quiet, simplify. It's realizing you don't have to reply to everything, engage in every debate, or prove anything to anyone. Clarity is born in silence. Peace in conscious selection. When you remove what's superficial, you make room for what's profound. When you stop trying to be everything for everyone, you begin to reconnect with who you really are. This applies to your words, your schedule, and especially your thoughts. Life doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. In fact, the greatest masters were quiet, observant, and highly selective with what they shared. Simplicity isn't weakness, it's refined strength. It's the courage to say, "This isn't mine. This is not necessary. This no longer serves me." And only those with that courage live with lightness. Because where there is excess, there is confusion. But where there is essence, there is emotional freedom and mental clarity. And in that space, you begin to grow. The next lesson from Marcus Aurelius will open your eyes to one of today's most dangerous mental traps, the need for approval. Ready to break free from it? Lessons 5. It is foolish to seek the approval of others. He who lives for applause will die in silence. Marcus Aurelius. From a young age, we're taught to please our parents, teachers, peers. The desire for approval becomes so deeply rooted that many now live more to be seen than to be true. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if you need others' validation to feel good, you've handed your power to the wrong people. Mind mastery begins the moment you stop living for invisible audiences. Imagine someone who shares a personal success online and hours later spirals into anxiety because it didn't get enough likes. That's not just vanity. It's a symptom of a mind trained to measure self-worth through external response. This pattern isn't limited to social media. It appears in relationships, careers, even personal choices. Fear of judgment paralyzes, and craving approval becomes a silent prison with golden bars. Stoicism teaches us to live with intention, not expectation. What others think is outside your control, and therefore outside your responsibility. True emotional freedom arises when you act based on your values, not others' reactions. Marcus Aurelius wrote for himself, not for applause. He understood that real strength lies in internal coherence, not external praise. Self-discipline becomes your shield here. It protects you from emotional manipulation. When you know yourself and trust your integrity, neither compliments deceive you, nor criticism defines you. You walk with firmness because you know who you are, even when no one's clapping. That's not coldness, that's emotional maturity. That's the resilience of someone who no longer bends to public opinion. Living without seeking approval doesn't mean living alone. It means living authentically. You attract the right people, the right opportunities, and a peace that isn't dependent on performance. Because external voices only echo loudly when the internal voice is weak. Strengthen your inner voice and the world loses its power to wound you. In the next lesson, Marcus Aurelius reveals how to face life's storms without drowning in them, learning to remain centered even when everything feels unstable. Lesson 6. You gain power over yourself when you stop reacting automatically. By Marcus Aurelius. How many times have you said something impulsively and regretted it later, or made a decision out of anger only to create more pain than solution? Marcus Aurelius teaches that true power doesn't lie in reacting quickly, it lies in reacting wisely. And that wisdom begins with the pause. The pause is the sacred space where impulse transforms into choice. It's in that quiet gap that a strong mind is born. Imagine a family argument. Someone accuses you unfairly, raises their voice, tries to humiliate you. The automatic reaction is to retaliate, and then the war begins. The Stoic, however, breathes, observes, and chooses a response that protects peace and preserves dignity. This isn't weakness, it's clarity. Self-control isn't silence out of fear. It's silence born from knowing your voice could destroy what you actually want to protect. Strategic silence is a powerful weapon against emotional manipulation. It confuses those expecting your outburst, disarms those trying to provoke you, and shields your mind from emotional contamination. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He knew that while the world outside might be in chaos, his mind had to remain a sanctuary of order. That's where real emotional strength is built. This lesson is urgent today. We live in a culture that praises quick replies, sharp comebacks, instant outrage. But this has left us emotionally fragile, constantly triggered. Stoic philosophy teaches the opposite. The wise are slow to react and quick to reflect. They don't avoid confrontation. They choose the right moment and method with strategy, not panic. When you master this principle, you're no longer a puppet of emotions. You become the conductor of your peace. Triggers still exist, but they no longer control you. And this level of self-control doesn't come from motivational quotes. It comes from daily practice, constant vigilance, and the courage to choose differently in small moments. The next lesson from Marcus Aurelius will show you how pain can become your teacher, not your enemy. a perspective that transforms suffering into strength. Lessons. 7. Adversity reveals genius, prosperity conceals it. Marcus Aurelius. It's easy to appear strong when life is smooth, but it's in the silent pain, the dark days, and the inner breakdowns that your real strength is revealed. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He didn't see suffering as punishment. He saw it as a mirror reflecting who you truly are. When faced with wisdom, pain can become the richest soil for the soul to grow. Imagine someone who goes through a heartbreaking rejection. At first, they're broken, confused, emotionally shattered. But in time, if they treat the pain as a teacher rather than a tyrant, they begin to rebuild themselves stronger, clearer, more selective with who they give their love and energy to. In this case, adversity doesn't destroy, it refines, it sculpts. Stoicism teaches us not to avoid pain, but to give it meaning. Mastering the mind isn't about escaping suffering, but walking through it without losing yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote some of his most powerful insights in moments of loss, betrayal, and illness, and yet his words carry calm, focus, and resilience. He understood. The soul doesn't gain strength in ease, but in quiet battles. Resilience is born when you see hardship as a test, not a dead end. Every adversity you overcome becomes an inner anchor. Every pain you process with awareness becomes wisdom. This doesn't minimize what you've been through. It gives purpose to your scars. And with purpose, pain stops being your prison and starts becoming your path. So next time life feels like it's falling apart, ask, what is this trying to teach me? That question shifts everything, because when you see pain as a guide, it loses the power to break you and gains the power to build you, and that mindset not only transforms you, it frees you. Now, Marcus Aurelius leads us to a final and powerful lesson, the one thing no one can ever take from you, and the one thing that defines your legacy. Lessons 8. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. In the end, it's not what you own, not what people say, not even what happens around you that defines your life. It's what you think about all of it. Marcus Aurelius understood that the human mind is the most powerful and neglected force in existence. And when it's filled with negative thoughts, distorted stories, and unresolved emotions, life loses its light, even if everything on the outside looks fine. Picture someone with a stable job, a comfortable home, and a circle of friends, yet they live haunted by thoughts of inadequacy, constant comparison, and fear of failure. Their mind becomes a battlefield where no victory ever feels enough. This is the silent tragedy of the modern world, cluttered minds running lives that could be extraordinary. Stoicism calls for a deep cleansing. Train your attention to focus on what matters. Nurture thoughts that heal instead of hurt. Interrupt the mental loops of self-sabotage. To master your mind is to consciously choose the thoughts you allow to stay. Every thought builds an atmosphere within you. Some illuminate, others poison, and your outer life will always reflect that inner weather. This isn't blind positivity, it's courageous clarity. Thoughts are not harmless visitors, they're architects of your destiny. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself like a mental gardener, pulling out weeds, planting virtues, strengthening the roots of clarity and self-discipline. You can do the same every day, starting now. Strategic silence, self-discipline, resilience, emotional strength, it all begins here, with the kind of thoughts you refuse to entertain and the kind you decide to cultivate with purpose, because a clear mind transforms any circumstance. And when your mind becomes your ally, no one else can shake your foundation. Now that we've walked through these 8 timeless lessons from Marcus Aurelius, it's time to reflect and remember why you pressed play on this video in the first place. You began this video carrying the silent weight of trying to stay balanced inside while the world demanded answers from the outside. A restless mind, a confused heart, a soul tired of fighting invisible wars. But now, with each of Marcus Aurelius's lessons, something has started to clear. You no longer need to be a prisoner of emotions, opinions, or past wounds. Stoic wisdom is a lighthouse, and today it lit up inside you. Life doesn't change just because the world changes. It changes when your perception changes, when you step away from the noise and step closer to yourself, when you decide that winning arguments matters less than winning inner peace. The true psychologist, as Marcus Aurelius proved, may simply be the right thought at the right moment. A moment of silence, a conscious breath, a trained mind that no longer sabotages itself. If you've made it this far, comment now. I choose Stoic strength. That simple act shows you're no longer willing to be guided by emotion, but by clarity. That you're ready to walk with more purpose, calm, and wisdom. And if this message spoke to something deep inside you, subscribe to the channel. Because here, every video is a reminder, you are not alone, and there is a path of inner power waiting for you.